We asked them all to bring their Wonders textbooks and to begin planning their next instruction using the curriculum that was at their fingertips to incorporate the strategies, but also then begin to think about how do I collect evidence of student growth and learning.
After teachers have had a chance to work through an arts experience, they've had a chance to reflect on what they've done, that they've even tried some of the, leading each other through facilitation or thought about the facilitation process, I believe it's a really important step to give them a chance to start planning. We could stop a workshop and say, okay, go off, do it. But it's easy for them to get in their car, drive away, walk away, have dinner, etc., and forget. And so in the workshop, immediately to sit down and say, let's make use of this. You've got a text there, you've got an idea, here's a template, start to write out what you're going to do. So they capture those ideas on paper before they're out of that room. Then they've got something to refer back to in their own words that helps them make sense of what they went through in the workshop and helps them be ready to implement it with their students immediately. That's really important, to give them a chance to just quietly kind of think through, how am I going to use this with my material in my classroom with my students?
Our last portion of the day is reserved to turn whatever you've learned today back to your own practice and to do something practical that you can implement in the classroom before Christmas. So we know that professional development is really limited if the teachers don't have a chance to immediately apply what they've learned. And we know that we're just talking heads unless you go do something. And if you don't use it, you'll lose it. The motivation, the memory, it'll all be gone. Your days are full and very interesting. And we also know that sometimes when we present you with something new, in your head you might be thinking like, that wouldn't work for my situation. I would have to do X, Y, and Z, tweak it, turn it, and then backflip it, and then it would work. And that is absolutely acceptable and right and the way life is, because schools are busy, messy places. So we want you to have that opportunity to turn it, twist it, and backflip it in order to work for your context, your content, and your students. So today what we've brought you is one last step. If only I knew where I put down the worksheet. Is this it? Yes. Thanks, Dan. So Dan and I are here to simply answer questions, or maybe we might come around and challenge you a little or push you a little bit. But we'd like you to come out of here with a concrete plan of your next drama strategy application and to be thinking about a few things maybe differently, or maybe you always do it this way. I'm hoping that you have some different ways to think, but it's this idea of backward planning. So by starting with your learning target, knowing that usually means standards. But I'm going to add into the standards thing whether your learning target could also be a HA target, a behavioral target. Your learning target could also be an art target. It could be from National Core Arts, or it could be perhaps a creativity target. So while standards usually belong up here in this first block, I want to just sort of broaden that a little bit to include any learning target that you think your students want and need right now in regards to the drama strategies. Then, instead of going ahead and planning out what you're going to teach, slow down and think about how you would assess it first. Think about whether you want to collect a piece of tangible evidence of student learning, like a photograph or a piece of writing or a documented interview of some kind. Think about not only what you will assess, but what your criteria for assessment might be. What is it that they need to learn to get better at the learning target? And then the instructions. And that's where the work that you practiced with Dan really come into play, where you decide what your strategy is, and we encourage you to think of maybe just one strategy and what your prompts will be that help get to your assessment. And not only that, but how you will explicitly teach what they need to know and be able to do in order to perform the criteria that you're looking for. So this is not so much a lesson plan, because you might also include other things, practices. Great teaching practice, of course, includes like activating prior knowledge and schema and connecting with students, contextualization, and asking great questions before, during, and after the lesson. All the teacher stuff that you always do, that will get played out at some point too. So we're just kind of focusing on the strategy implementation, knowing full well that you'll build around that with your other teaching strategies that you use to create a lesson, a unit, whatever it is that you want to teach. Did you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah.
Go.
But I'm going to be kind of close to you so the microphone picks me up because mine's not there. When we talked about this, the thing that we came to was we started using the word lesson, but then we pulled back from that to kind of say focus on a strategy. But watching some of you today, I actually would encourage you to not pull back from maybe having more than one strategy with this proviso that some of you showed how using one strategy helps kind of warm up to a second strategy. That it kind of gets the students going, and that's kind of nice. So if you feel like you're going to use more than one drama strategy as to step up and to get them kind of warmed up into the process, then the first one can be pretty quick, just kind of get us going, and the second one then goes a little deeper where you get the other steps into it. Yeah, the revision and them getting the ODI where they're responding to each other. So if you want to use more than one strategy, go ahead if you see it as a clear kind of scaffolding from one thing to another. I think that can be a good thing to happen. But up to you if you want to focus on one.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any questions about the task? I will say, invite you to either work solo or with partners, whatever you prefer, or whatever makes the most sense. If you're a fourth grade teacher, you should work with your fourth grade teachers, that kind of thing. If you maybe are a middle school team that wants to sit next to each other and vibe off of each other, then maybe you should do that. But that part, take the option that's the most purposeful for you in terms of application and planning, and just take a little bit of time to work up an idea that you're going to use before Christmas break. All right?
The challenge was really a backward plan. So they're thinking about what the students will learn as a result of their instruction, and then thinking about assessment. How will I know they learned it? And then thinking about the instructional steps, the little things that we do and say to get them there. So that planning incorporated all aspects of the professional development and put things back into their hands to now make something new.